Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs. We're gonna do our Week 5 start sits. I'm gonna kick it off here. My first one is DeAndre Swift for the Bears. The Bears are they're going up against the Panthers this week. They're at home. The Panthers will struggle against the run. I think Swift could have a really good game this week. Not only rushing the ball, but he could be active in the passing game. So I think he'll probably have a combined 100 yards and maybe a touchdown. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. So and maybe 3-4 receptions as well. So my next pick here is Najee Harris for the Steelers. Listen, the Steelers are playing the Cowboys. They're at home. I know everybody's probably thinking, the, well, it's the Cowboys defense and stuff. The Cowboys defense hasn't been that great against the run. Najee doesn't have Warren or Cordell Patterson that are going to be breathing down his neck. I got a feeling that the Steelers are going to want to keep the um, Cowboys offense off the field as much as possible. So I think they're going to try to pound the ball with Najee throughout the game. I really do think he could have a 100-yard game here with a touchdown. He was also active in the passing game last week as well, I believe. So I wouldn't surprise me if he gets a few receptions as well. Brian Thomas Jr. I love this guy. I've got him in a couple of my leagues already. Um, I think he's just getting started. Personally, I think he's going to heat up. They're going up against the Colts at home. I really think that this is going to be their first win. I could be wrong, but um, and I think he's going to have. I think he's going to have a big game. I really do. I think he's going to go for over 100 yards and a touchdown in this game on about 6 or 7 receptions. Amari Cooper for the Browns. I know he hasn't been having a great. He's been kind of spotty this year. They're playing Washington at Washington. I really think that this is going to be a shootout. So I think the Browns are going to be passing a lot. I don't have a lot of faith in their running game right now. So uh, even though I'm not a huge fan of Watson. I do think that he's going to hit Cooper and Judy during this game. I think Cooper could have 7, 8 receptions for anywhere between 80 to 100 yards and potentially a touchdown. And then my last pick here is Tucker Kraft for the Packers. The Packers are going up against the Rams this week. Uh, they suspended Romeo Dobbs for a game, so he's not even going to be playing. I know Wiggs and I talked about Dontavius Wicks. They're already down Christian Watson. I think that Kraft could potentially have a decent game here. I don't think he's going to explode for 100 yards or anything, but I do think he could get 4 or 5 receptions for 60 yards and possibly 60, 70 yards and possibly a touchdown.
Yeah, then moving into mine, I agree with you on Brian Thomas. I think I even think from day one he was going to be the wide receiver one on this roster, and I think he's shown that so far. I know Christian Kirk has shown some spurts over the last few weeks. Still not sold there. I don't think he's going to do much this week personally, which we'll get into later. But um, yeah, I just think Brian Thomas is going to get the ball a lot. I think he's going to be the main vocal point here in this offense. I think um, aside from him, maybe an ETN spurt, but I just don't see it happening this week here. I could actually see someone like Bigsby getting more involved. So um, for me on this offense, I have to go Brian Thomas, and I really like him as well. Was hoping to get him in a few of my leagues, but that didn't happen. Keon Coleman's gonna be the next one. I believe which receiver is it that's out this week?
Shakir's out.
Shakir. Yeah. So with Shakir being out, I think someone needs to step up. I think this is a risky start, but I would still say if you have him, a possible flex would be good depending on who's on bye on your team, or if a few guys are struggling there at your flex. I think Coleman, and I thought this going into the season, is going to have a good game here, and I think he's going to end up being Josh Allen's top target. It's just been a slow start, and I just don't think Josh Allen knows who he really wants to throw to yet. I'm hoping this is the week where he finally gets in the groove with Keon Coleman, gets him the ball. A few weeks ago, we saw him, play very little reps, but caught the ball one time for a touchdown. I could totally see him going for 2 touchdowns here in this game on like 6 or 7 receptions and quite a few different targets here. I think they'll be behind, honestly, for a lot of this game. So I think they're going to have to throw the ball and be more aggressive rather than just run it and let James Cook do his thing. Moving on, I have Cortland Sutton. This is probably my biggest hot take here of this list. Bo Nix isn't like the greatest quarterback yet. He's a rookie, so you can't expect much, but he does seem to throw the ball to Sutton quite a bit. I mean, the last few games, Sutton's been targeted over 10 times, so I could totally see him going Sutton's way quite a bit, and for all we know, he could pop off for 120 yards and a touchdown, maybe even two, because he loves looking Sutton's way. Just need him to be a little more accurate and put the ball where Sutton can catch it, because he will go up and get that ball for him. And then JSN, this was a little bit of a risky one still, but I do like what he's done so far this year. He has had one pop off game, no touchdowns yet. I think he's honestly due for a touchdown. I think he's going to get it here this week as well. They're playing the Giants, so I think Metcalf's going to, have a handful. There's pretty good defense there in the Giants. It's a little underrated in my opinion, so I think JSN's going to have to be that key X factor here in this game because the Giants are going to be a tough team to beat, whether people want to believe it or not. I think it's a little bit easier with Malik Neighbors being out, but um, JSN for me is just like the one guy I'd look at. I think him and Walker are going to have a pretty solid week. And then lastly, Trey Sermon. I put him here on this list because I'm pretty sure Joe Flacco is going to be starting, and I have a really good feeling about Joe getting him the ball here in this game. There's quite a few games last year where Flacco threw the ball to Ford when he was on the Browns, and Ford put up 15 plus points. Had one receiving touchdown in one of those games, about 6 or 7 targets. I could totally see him throwing the ball Sermon's way quite a bit. I think Sermon's probably going to be on the field for about 80% of the snaps. So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes for a combined 100 yards and a touchdown or two, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know why you think Coleman's going to be a risk. I was thinking about him. I think he's definitely going to have a decent game. I'm not as sold as JSN this week, but I think he has the potential. But yeah, I can see why you picked all those guys. Yeah, so for the sits, I know a lot of people are thinking Alexander Madison is going to be a sleeper this week. Listen, I'm not sold on it. First of all, they're going up against a tough Broncos team on the road. I think that there's the potential the Raiders get put into a hole um, at the start. I don't think Madison's gonna have he's gonna have it tough going running in this game. So to me, if you picked him up thinking that he's gonna be your savior because he's replacing um, Zamir White as a starter, I think you might want to look to see if you got somebody else on your bench. That's just my opinion, because I think he's gonna struggle in this game. Uh, Rico Dowdle for the Cowboys. Again, the Cowboys are going up against the Steelers. Uh, you know, they're on the road in Pittsburgh. Uh, you know, I think that they're going to struggle with the run game. There's nothing that shows me that they're going to, pop off anywhere with their run game right now, especially against this tough Steelers defense. I know the Steelers they kind of had an off game last week, but I think they're going to bounce back. And I think that there's the potential the Cowboys are going to be playing from behind most of this game as well. So, um, so I really do think that if you have a better option, you should definitely go with that option. Jacoby Myers, I know a lot of people are high on him. I like Jacoby Myers personally, but Devontae Adams is out. He's going to have Pat Surtain guarding him in this game from the Broncos. I really think what is it, Trey Tucker?
Mm-hmm.
I really think Trey Tucker and Brock Bowers are the ones that are probably going to potentially have a better game here for the Raiders because I just think that Sertain he just he's a shutdown corner, probably the best corner in the league. I in my opinion. So I think Myers is going to struggle in this game, especially without Devontae out there. So and then my next guy, Rome Odunzi. I love him. I think that he's definitely got a home with the Bears. Um, and there is the potential that he could have a decent game against the Panthers here. I just have a couple concerns. One, Allen's back. Um, DJ Moore is going to be playing against the Panthers, so it's as everybody likes to label it, a revenge game. So I really think that the person that's going to get targeted the most in this game is going to be DJ Moore. I think Allen is, with him being back, you could see Dunzy's production drop last week. I'm not comfortable um, saying to start him right now, even at a flex, until we see a little bit more about where he fits in this offense now that Allen's back. I also am not sold on Williams, like everybody knows, because I think he has issues with his accuracy. So I just don't see him having a great game this week, even against the Panthers. And then my last guy here is Hunter Henry for the Patriots. Um, Listen, you would think the Patriots would use their tight end a little bit more. Hunter Henry had one good game, but he hasn't really been used. They've been also, using Austin.
Cooper.
Yeah, uh, they've been using him quite a bit as well. I'm not sold on Henry right now. I think if you have a better option, you should definitely go with it. If you don't, obviously you're gonna have to start him. But against this Dolphins defense, I still think that he's gonna struggle here, and I think that they're gonna have Kendrick Bourne back this week as well. So I can kind of see Bourne having a little bit bigger role in the offense for them as well.
Well, my first hit, Christian Kirk. I'm not sold on him like I touched on earlier. I think he's still a little overrated even to this date. He had a slow start, picked it up a few weeks ago and last week, but I feel like with Brian Thomas emerging as like this number one receiver in the offense, I think Christian Kirk's production is going to go down a little bit, and I could see like someone like Gabe Davis or really just anyone else on the team getting just as many touches as Kirk. I think he'll be maybe around 3 or 4 receptions a game moving forward. I know some people might think that's a hot take, but I'm just being realistic here. I think Brian Thomas is going to get a bulk of the work here moving forward.
Well, and Ingram might be back this week too, so that might dip in.
That and it definitely showed when Ingram was on the field how little Kirk was targeted. So
they haven't ruled him out yet. So
and then moving forward, Zach Moss. This may come as a little bit of a shock, but I don't know if the Bengals are fully sold on Zach Moss being their go-to guy, and I think with Chase Brown popping off like he did last week, I could totally see Brown taking away a little bit of production there in the red zone, and definitely a lot more in the receiving game. Um, Brown had a slow start to the year, but I expected him to be good at some point. I think with him showing it last week that they're going to want to utilize him more, and I think they're going to utilize him more. So for me, I personally would bench Zach Moss if I had him on my team, but if you don't have any other better options, you may have to start him.
plus they might be playing from behind most of this game,
Yeah.
which means that Chase Brown will probably be more active in the passing game.
Next up, I have Wan'Dale Robinson, and it really pains me to put him on here right now because him and Neighbors have both been a really nice 1-2 punch for Daniels, and Daniels actually hasn't looked terrible this year outside of that week 1 game, but without Neighbors being in this game, I think Robinson's going to struggle. I think a lot of Robinson's production comes from the fact that Neighbors is such a big threat on the field, and he draws a lot of attention away from Robinson. I'm not saying Robinson's not going to be targeted a lot of times here in this game because I really think he's still going to get like about 7 or 8, if not 9 targets here in this game. I just think it's going to be really tough passes to him, and I think some of them are going to be uncatchable because I just feel like the impact of not having Neighbors on the field is just going to make it so much harder for this Giants offense to really get the ball moving. Moving forward, Mark Andrews, and this is the tight end I thought would be number 1 here throughout the year, and he's really not even involved in this offense right now. So bench him. He's only got 65 yards in these on the season so far. I know tight ends aren't going crazy this year, but 65 yards across 4 games. I mean, you're talking like 15 yards a game, 16 yards a game. So I'd sway away from him just for now until we see that Lamar is looking his way again, because he really hasn't like he's done in the past. Lastly, I have Travis Etienne. I don't know. Etienne has struggled to stay fully healthy the last few weeks on the field, and I think Tank Bigsby is starting to chip away at his production. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a little bit less of Etienne here in this game, or him even getting hurt again for a third straight week. I know he's come back the last two and played the rest of the game, but I don't know. I don't have like a good feeling about him like I used to, and I hate to say it because I do like Etienne as a running back, but he's just, I don't know, not sitting well with me right now, I guess.
Wow, got some big names on there. So ETN's interesting. I actually think ETN could have a breakout game here against the Colts. That's just my opinion. He could, or this would be the game for him to do it. But I can see why you know why you would say that. I also think that Andrews. I agree with you that he hasn't had the production we'd like to see. I also think outside of the first game where likely was getting the production, they just really haven't had to pass the ball because they've been running the ball. So I can see it. I actually think that Andrews is going to have an okay game, and he's going to have a better game than likely. Uh, but I agree with you, Wiggs. I think that we got to see. We got to see where he fits in this. But against this Bengals defense, he could pop off. And my hot take is I think Wendell Robinson's actually going to have a good game. That's just my opinion. I think even though he doesn't have neighbors out there, I think he's going to show everybody, just like Addison did last year when Jefferson was out, why he's the number 2 receiver on that team. Just my opinion. But I think I understand why you said it because it all kind of comes down to Danny Dimes, right?
Yeah.
If Danny Dimes is, looking like he does, like he did in the last couple games, Wendell, could have a decent game. But I agree with you. I can understand why you're hesitant because they're playing the Seahawks on the road too. But that's the other reason though too because I think that I absolutely agree with you. I think he's going to be targeted a lot, which I think it's for everyone he doesn't get. I think he's still going to get a bunch. He's still going to get a bunch of
Yeah, and
receptions.
I honestly hope he has a good game. I like him as a receiver. So
Yeah, I think they've got a really good 1-2 punch once Neighbors is in there.
and
So
for all we know, Tracy can maybe even open up the game if he has a good game. There's someone to look at here in this game aside from the start sits. Tyrone Tracy, if he has a solid outing, we could see a lot more of him in this offense too. So
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game to watch because it's always hard to play at Seattle. I do agree with you with Zach Moss. I think Chase Brown's gonna definitely have a bigger role in this game. I don't know that it's not that the Bengals don't believe in Zach Moss. I think that they brought Zach Moss in because they really didn't believe in Chase Brown. I think that's the reason why they signed him this offseason, because they wanted to bring in some competition, somebody with a little bit of experience to kind of push Chase Brown. And I think to your point, Wiggs, Brown popped off last week, and now maybe that's motivated Brown and stuff. So I can see. I totally agree with you on this one. And then yeah, I'm not sold on Christian Kirk either. So
yeah, we've had that debate.
yeah, so I think he's still going to be involved, but I just don't. I think as the year goes on, you're right. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be more involved. So with that, I think we're good, right, Wiggs? So check us out on Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're also on Snapchat, X, TikTok, Instagram. Like, share, subscribe. If you got any lineup questions, feel free to reach out. Any feedback, and we hope you find us as another useful resource for your fantasy football information. And until next time, we'll see you soon.